Hello everybody! Today for you I have a Macro Monarch deck for the Edison format 2010. This deck is based around Macrocosmos and Deep Fissure and their ability to allow your DD Survivor and DD Scout Plane to reoccur themselves during every end phase. To start her off, we have 3 DD Survivors. The Survivor returns to the end phase during the turn it was banished from the field. This is important to note that it does have to be banished from the field for this to resolve. You cannot allure or darkness it to trigger it. If it gets warninged, I know warning's not in this format, if it gets judgmented, you will not get to bring him back. Next up, DD Scout Plane. Now DD Scout Plane, unlike DD Survivor, will come back no matter where it goes from the field, from the deck, from the hand to the banish zone. The only difference here though is that he does have to return in attack position, which makes it a big liability for their deck because when your scout planes return during your end phase, it does leave your life points open to significant damage. Next up is our Monarchs, 3 Caius, 3 Ryza, pretty standard. 3 Cyber Valley. Cyber Valley plays an interesting role in this deck. For one, you can banish it and one of your scout planes or survivors to draw 2 cards, and it also allows you to stall in a situation where you perhaps have not gotten to your Deep Fissure or your Macrocosmos yet. If you were to say summon this on your first turn, and then your opponent doesn't kill it, and you follow up by summoning a scout plane or survivor, you then gain a +1, and it's a pretty solid play. Next up is Allure of Darkness. Allure of Darkness has extra value in this deck because you can banish your scout planes from your hand, and then they will return during the end phase. Brain Control only makes sense with your Monarchs. 3 Deep Fissure. Anytime a monster is sent to the graveyard, it is banished instead. There's rulings on this with Exceeds, but that's not relevant at this point. Next up, you have Gold Sarcophagus. This card has extra value in this deck too because you can banish your scout planes and they'll come back. You can also use it to search your Macrocosmos or Deep Fissure in those scenarios that you're not able to access it. 1 Reinforcement of the Army for your Survivor. 3 Upstart. Now, in a deck where you need to draw Macrocosmos or Deep Fissure to really start playing the game, you really need to be playing a 37 card deck, in my opinion. 2 Bottomless, 2 Dark Bribes. These are used to protect your Deep Fissure and your Macrocosmos. Not one of my favorite cards, but it is necessary when your whole strategy is based around single card. A couple of Deep Prisons, your 3 Macrocosmos. Now Macrocosmos banishes all cards, not just monsters, when they go to the graveyard. Now you could, in theory, play a Helios to summon off this as extra tribute fodder, but in practice, I have never actually done that successfully. A lot of the times I would just draw the Helio, feel bad about it. You can still summon it from your hand with Macrocosmos, but it still doesn't feel good. You got your Mirror Force, your Judgment, 1 Starlight Road. Heavy Storm is going to be the bane of your existence as it will shut off your entire strategy. So we play one of that. I play 2 Dark Bribe over, I could have played a 2nd Starlight Road instead of 1 Dark Bribes. I mean, against a deck that plays Black Rose and makes Black Rose a lot, perhaps I would consider that, but otherwise Dark Bribe has more utility, being able to stop MST, being able to stop Giant Tornade, etc. Trap Dust Shoot and Torrential Tribute, of course. Now in the side deck, I have some other things that you could potentially play. Armageddon Knight is another target for reinforcement of the army, and if you have Deep Fissure or Macro up, you can use it to send your scout planes, and then your scout planes in play. I see a lot less main Cyber Dragon as extra tribute fodder, and it's just a strong monster. You could banish it with a Cyber Valley. That's kind of cute. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it. You could play Doom Caliber Knights. It's another option. Not sure I'm into it. Neospatian Granmal is pretty strong in this deck. I would definitely consider playing this. as oftentimes you may only have your D Survivor and macro, and Granbull's going to clear the way for you for those monsters that Survivor can't deal with. Definitely a strong option to consider. You could potentially play Thunder King. Foolish Burial could help you get those scout planes into play faster. I'm not sure that that's worth. Machine Dupe is interesting because you do have Cyber Valley and Scout Plane. So you could get a lot of value off your machine duplication, but in a deck that already struggles with consistency, I don't feel like it's worth it. I mean, the probability of you opening a D-Fissure macro and one of your floaters is only about 55% here, 55.33. So I really feel like you can't afford to do anything to the deck that would make it more inconsistent. Venus Chain is an option for back row. I've messed around with maining Skill Drain, and it's something I've really enjoyed. There's a couple interesting things to note there. You can still Cyber Valley under Skill Drain, any of the effects. So let's say you get Skill Drain, but you still don't have your macro and stuff in. The Cyber Valley still has value with it to help you draw. Of course, I mentioned second Starlight Road, and I also see Bliss play DD Warrior Lady. So there's other idea with the macro Cosmos decks, more control variants that I feel like personally would actually be much better, just for consistency's sake. It would be nice not to rely as much on the macro Cosmos and D-Fissure. I would consider maybe cutting some Scout Planes, the Ryzas, and tossing in things like Skill Drain, maybe DD Warrior Lady, who also works under Skill Drain. And I think that you might see more success with just a general control variant. But this one really is the essence of the idea, macro Monarchs. It's something that when I was younger playing Yu-Gi-Oh, I feared, right? Because you can get in these game states where you can't even play against macro Monarchs, and they're dropping Monarchs on you over and over, which is really hard to come back from. So that's it for the deck profile, guys. I really hope you enjoyed. Have a nice day.